Good evening, everyone. We're going to call the May Washington County Quorum Court meeting to order. I appreciate seeing everybody tonight. It's good to see our colleagues, good to see the public here. With that, we're going to start with the prayer and pledge. We're going to let J.P. Bowerman do us that honor this evening. J.P., if you'll hit your...
Let us pray. Dear Father, we want to thank you so much for this opportunity to gather together and to make good decisions, wise decisions, Father, that help us as a county to be able to function better and to do the things and see the progress that you would have us to make. And dear Father, I pray that you would just show your mercy upon us, give us an extra portion of your Spirit so that we can listen and receive from everyone and their voices and what they're sharing with us, dear Father, and to hear them, to really hear them in ways that would help them to understand that although we may not always agree or see eye to eye on every issue, we can certainly be united in seeing you glorified in our lives and what we're doing here and the way that we're acting. Dear God, we pray that you would just bless this time together, bless this opportunity, keep us safe, help us to return safely to our homes, that you would be glorified in all. In Jesus' name we pray, amen. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Justice Bowerman. I appreciate that. Next, we're going to move to the adoption of the agenda. Justice Wilson?
Thank you, Judge. I wanted to make a motion that we move the resolution that's on the agenda up earlier in the evening to follow your report.
I have a motion by Justice Wilson to move item number 12 up to new item number 7A. Second by Justice Lemming. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Item 12 will be moved to new item 7A. Additional motions for the agenda or a motion to adopt the agenda? Justice Dennis?
Thank you, Judge. I'd like to move that we extend the public citizen comment to 30 minutes instead of 15 minutes.
Second. I have a motion to extend public comments from 15 to 30 minutes by Justice Dennis. Do I have a second? Second. I have a second by Justice Lyons. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Citizen comments will be extended from 15 to 30 minutes. Do I have a motion to adopt the agenda as amended? I have a motion to adopt the agenda as amended by Justice Lemming. I believe I heard second by Justice Dean. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? The agenda has been adopted. Item number 4 is preliminary motions. Justice Dean?
Thank you, Judge. Yeah, I'd like to make a motion that we read all ordinances and resolutions by title only.
I have a motion by Justice Dean to read ordinances and resolutions by title only. Second. Do I have a second? I have a second by Justice Rios Stafford. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Items of ordinance and resolution will be read by title only. Justice Lyons?
I'd like to make a motion we accept new number 7A to that order of titles and have it read in its entirety, please.
To exempt it?
Exempt it, yeah.
Okay.
So what used to be 12 is read in its entirety.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's second.
Okay. I have a motion to read item number 7A in its entirety by Justice Lyons, second by Justice Dean. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Item number 7A will be read in its entirety. Moving on to our citizen comments. We have extended citizen comments to 30 minutes with a 3-minute limit per individual. Citizen comments. You need to push the button on the bottom right. You are live.
Good evening. My name is Mary McKinney. I live at 19980 Lakeview Road in Springdale. We are here tonight to ask you for two things. We'd like to ask you to rescind your approval of ordinance 2024-36, repealing ordinance 2023-26. That ordinance was to deny a conditional use permit to Conway Lakeside LLC and Eagle Crest Recovery LLC. We'd also like to ask you to schedule an opportunity for a fully informed public discussion on the requirements for granting a conditional use permit for a group home. This group home will increase the number of occupants in the area, and an area that already has limited sewer, water supply, fire protection, and road access. We believe you, justices of the peace, were not fully informed on the issues, and that an emergency that required you to proceed without public notice in April did not exist. In March 23, you denied the CUP to Conway Lakeside Eagle Crest Recovery because of insufficient infrastructure to accommodate 15 people, let alone when they increase their census to 40. Absolutely zero has changed from March 2023 to April 18th, 2024. No attempts, zero attempts were made to make any improvements for the infrastructure before you repealed the ordinance. On April 18th, County Attorney Brian Lester told you you are going to get sued and that denying the CUP was discriminatory. He said there was a risk of a federal lawsuit and that Washington County would not prevail. Did he tell you that the letter that threatened the lawsuit by law firm RMP on behalf of Eagle Crest was hand-delivered to Judge Deakins on March the 19th? This letter was received 2 days before your Quorum Court March meeting, 28 days prior to the April meeting. There was certainly sufficient time for this item to be included on the Quorum Court's agenda and to give adequate notice to the public. This item did not need to be an emergency. You were not fully and properly informed.
Thank you, ma'am. Public comments.
I'm Mary's brother, Charles McKinney. My wife and I, Susan Chen, purchased the house at 19956 Lakeview Road, right next to Eagle Crest, and I'm hoping that your prayer this evening will apply to me. We have learned quite a lot about the Fair Housing Act, and I'm going to share it just in short. It says that we cannot discriminate against group homes. We cannot discriminate against group homes for disabled people. Drug addiction is considered a disability. It's considered a protected class of occupant, that they must be allowed in residential areas. Okay. But it goes on to say that sometimes you have to provide a reasonable accommodation. So maybe, you know, it may be zoned single family, but you have to allow more unrelated adults. That's a reasonable accommodation. But the Fair Housing Act does not say that increased occupancy must be allowed in areas with inadequate sewer, water, and fire protection. Reasonable accommodation means you can accommodate more adults, but it doesn't say that if there's insufficient water and sewer that it has to be allowed. That is not a discriminatory decision. It's simply infeasible. Now, you could make a reasonable accommodation, which would include upgrades to sewer, water, and fire protection to properly serve the increased occupancy. If the county cannot afford to pay for these improvements and the owner is unwilling to do so, a cup can be denied legally. This is not a discriminatory decision. So that's a legal way to deal with it. You just obtain those improvements to deal with the increased occupancy. Now, if this 2024-36 ordinance stands, it essentially provides blanket approval for increased numbers of occupants to have their facility without the necessary infrastructure. And any of us could have a group home of a protected class next door that disregards state and local codes. So it sets a very bad precedent to give a blanket approval.
Thank you, sir. Your time has expired. Additional public comments?
My name is Stacy Bennett. I live at 19980 Lakeview Road. We have some copies for each of you that will be handed out at the end of the meeting. One contains the letter from RMP to Judge Deakins, and then the other is a copy of the Fair Housing Act. I think questions that need to be asked by you of the actions that took place last month are why. And then also a question would be, who does this affect? Well, it affects the whole public because it's just changed how things work. And you'll have to choose whether to withhold, keep doing the same thing or make a difference. I wish you would have had the opportunity to review this letter or been updated by your attorney on the case that was going on and the chain of events that were happening there. So you could have been able to move through this process and make a decision based on full and complete information. I believe last month you would have made a different vote. I'm asking you right now to please rescind Ordinance 2024-36. I'm asking you to send a clear message internally and to your constituents that you expect transparency and ethical behavior so that you can perform your role with the integrity that you every day expect to do and try to uphold of yourselves. Thank you.
Public comments?
Thank you. My name is David Van Beber. I live at 22631 Jennings Drive with my wife, Sue. This is kind of on the other side of the lake from where this facility is located. And I also don't believe that you guys were fully informed when you took action to rescind Ordinance 2023-26 with the passage of Ordinance 2024-36, and therefore I support the request to rescind that ordinance. I don't believe the county ever attempted to enforce that ordinance when it was first passed and allowed that particular facility to continue to operate in violation of that ordinance. Why? I don't know. I'm here to tell you that it's my understanding that a trial before the judge, I hope you guys know this, Judge Martin in Washington County Circuit Court was set to begin on May the 7th, with the plaintiffs being the Conway Lakeside and the Eagle Crest Recovery against the Washington County Quorum Court and Judge Deakins. It sought to repeal the initial granting of the conditional use permit. So in essence, what you all did in that April meeting usurped the ability for those folks to continue and voice their opinion in that trial. Thank you.
Public comments? Seeing none, we're going to move on with the meeting. Next up, approval of the minutes Justice Secchi notated one correction to the minutes. She was in attendance at the county services meeting, and she would like credit for that. Any other corrections for the minutes? If not, I'll entertain a motion to accept those. Motion to accept by Justice Secchi, second by Justice Lyons. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? The minutes have been accepted. Item number 7 is the county judge's report. I have a few items tonight to go over and bring you guys up to speed on. First of all, I want to thank a heartfelt thank you to the 4-H Equestrian Club for bringing us some snacks and refreshments tonight. The Extension office is so good to us, and we appreciate their hospitality and our home environment here, if you will, and it's much appreciated. It's always good to meet the youth of our county and get to know a little bit more about what they do. You guys had a preliminary introduction to our new Justice of the Peace, Mr. Ed Bowerman. We're excited to have him here. He's excited to get started. I tell all the public, get to know Mr. Bowerman, JP's, get to know your new colleague. But thank you for choosing to serve. Thank you for being willing to accept the appointment. And thank you for working for the people of Washington County, and I look forward to working with you. And my office is always here to help if anything you need, and I hope we've already been hospitable towards you. But if you ever have any questions or anything, let me know, and we'll get you taken care of, Justice Bowerman. Once again, excited to have you here. I want to give a congratulations to all of our graduates all across our county. We're all probably pretty familiar with all those ceremonies going on this time of year. I know Justice Washington, her daughter graduated from high school this year, and so that's where she's at this evening. And so I just want to congratulate all of our graduates, and I look forward to your success, and look forward to you to come back here in Washington County and continue to make this the best county in our nation. A couple construction updates. As you guys know, one of the things we tried to tackle when we came in here and started this new term was our roofing claims and our roof replacements. Those are going on pretty well. We've completed roofs for the Adult Detention Center, the Courthouse Annex, the Health Department building, our CSU building, and the Veterans Affairs building, so that's moving along nicely. Underway right now is the Juvenile Detention Center. I want to give Director Tinsley and also Judge Zimmerman a big thank you for their patience and their consideration while we're trying to do that project right now. That one was particularly challenging and involved a lot of disruption to that facility, and so we just appreciate them allowing us to make that better for them. Up next, we're going to move on to the extension building out by the fairgrounds, so that'll be next up. Then we're going to move to the main courthouse here at this building, and then we'll move to the what was our old jail and what's now the current women's facility leased to the Department of Corrections. I want to give kudos to our road men and women. We have had a tremendous start to our paving season and our goal of 200 miles. I've mentioned to you guys how historic that is, all the variables that are going into that. As of today, we've paved 40 road miles, which is ahead of our trend curve of this point in time. We were expecting to have 35 road miles completed at this point. A lot of variables still there. We don't want to claim victory too soon, but we've gotten to a great start. The weather's helped us a little bit, not in the last couple weeks, but we had a good early spring that we got started on. I want to also very much highlight to you, ladies and gentlemen, that we made history yesterday in the Washington County Road Department. For the first time ever, we ran asphalt and paving crews at the same time simultaneously. And so I wanted to highlight that to you guys, that was an investment you made in our road department. You listened to us and heard that those two teams are the same amount of individuals. And, of course, you guys can understand how we can divide and conquer in that way. And so I just really appreciate that. I really appreciate our men and women in the road department. They're working really hard. They're achieving their goals. There's some excitement there. There's some swagger there. And our job in my office, I feel like, is to continue to give them the tools and the things necessary to carry on their work. So we're really excited about that. This week is National Police Week. That's established by Congress back in the 60s. Most specifically, I had the chance, I believe Justice Dennis was there yesterday too. We attended the NWA Law Enforcement Memorial, which was hosted by the Fayetteville Police Department at their new police station facility. Very somber moment. Always really good to remember the law enforcement officers we've lost all around the nation, but particularly in this area, defending us and standing up, protecting and serving us. And so I really appreciate that. I want to thank Chief Reynolds, Mayor Jordan, all their hospitality of hosting us at the Fayetteville Police Department building. And I also want to thank Sheriff Cantrell and all the Sheriff Department employees who participated in that, particularly the Honor Guard, I think represented us really well from Washington County, and so I thank them for being a part of that. I want to introduce something that I had the opportunity to tour a few weeks ago, and I would spur you guys to look into it too. Goodwill has started a training and education center, and that's at the corner of 412 and 265 there, just south of the airport in Springdale. And what that does is it brings, they have two things there, the academy, which introduces people to licensed trades for free. All these services are completely for free, so if you know people who are trying to better themselves or improve their skills, I'd have them look into that. Most excitingly, though, they have what they're calling the Excel Center. And that's the only accredited high school in the state of Arkansas for individuals 19 and older. So this is not a GED program. This is a traditional high school diploma program. It's completely free. If you know individuals who would like to continue their education, want to get caught up and better themselves, I highly suggest looking at that. They're excited to be here. They're excited to invest in our community, and they're excited to invest in our educational services here. They're ready to tailor that to people and their challenges and needs. And so if you know anyone, please refer them to that facility. If you have the opportunity, please go by and see it. It's a wonderful resource to have up here. The only other one like that's in Little Rock. So I would like to get that supported and make sure people know about it. An update with our negotiations with the Department of Community Corrections. We had a meeting a couple weeks ago that included Secretary Wallace and officials from the state. Guys, we're at an impasse, and that's just all there is to it. We're being told there's no way to facilitate what our concerns from the state standpoint, and so what we are moving into is a transition phase. We are fully preparing to take over that facility at the first of the year, and we'll continue to work towards that. I'm excited for Sheriff Cantrell to continue to huddle with his leadership team and come up with the best and highest use of that facility. What we realize is there's going to be no immediate solution to the prisoner backlog from the state standpoint, and that very much concerns us. I want to highlight a couple things. I want to speak to a couple groups. Let me back up and say that. First off, I want to speak to the wonderful volunteers that work in that facility on a regular basis. I've gotten a lot of letters and emails from those people, and what I want you to understand is our decisions as a county have nothing to do with the merits of the programs that are going on within that facility or the hard work that the volunteers around this county are investing in that facility, and I want you to please hear me and know that. But I really feel we have no choice as a county. I need people to understand that the state solely bears the responsibility and the resources to fix this problem. And to this point, they're choosing to put their resources in other areas. That's what we're being told. And so with that, we're left with even less options as a county. But I want those volunteers to know the state leaders need to hear from you. If you're sending the county letters and emails, I very much welcome that. I read every one with fondness to learn more about what's happening in that facility, continue to familiarize myself with that, but you need to be sending carbon copies to Secretary Wallace and her leadership team to understand how important this facility is to our part of the world here. I think the biggest slap in the face today with all the headlines was that Arkansas still sits on a dragon's hoard of $708 million of surplus. And so that is the money that needs to be used for these types of situations to help us as counties to continue to fulfill our responsibilities. I want to apologize on behalf of the state to all the volunteers that work in that facility. It's extremely unfair what's happening. We're having to make difficult decisions. But what I also want to do is to tell you that I think there's an incredible opportunity after this comes into focus and we hear more about Sheriff Cantrell's plans. We want you in our county-run facility. We understand that's going to take a change in format. We understand that's going to take a change in your goals. We can invest in our people right here in a county-run facility, and I want you to know that there's going to be the opportunity to do that. We value your work, and we still want you to come and work for Washington County. The next group of individuals I want to talk to are the individuals who work in that facility. I understand and respect that you've been very dutiful. You come in there every day to keep people safe, promote people's well-being, and invest in their futures, and you can do that in the county-run facility also. We have openings, our pay is competitive, And I can guarantee you will have a leadership class of individuals who are dedicated to making sure you have the tools and the facilities to do your work to the best of your ability. So I would invite you to come and meet the county and learn a little bit about our values and possibly just switch right over. I want to highlight that this is an incredibly difficult decision for me, but I also want everybody to understand that the way I view this is, yes, we have a state-run facility with statewide participants. It has seen some success, but just down the road we have a facility that's been forgotten about and has languished in an overcrowded situation for a chronic period of time that's very dangerous. And so we have something that in my mind is optional programming from the state standpoint versus life and death for our county inmates, detainees, and our officers. That's not much of a choice in my mind. And I think you should be much more worried if you have county leadership who is not disposed to that type of solution and who would continue to let that happen down there at our Washington County Detention Center. I can say that it's not my wish, and it's not within Sheriff Cantrell's wishes to let that continue, and so that's why we've taken the steps that we have. I also want to say that while this comes into focus and we continue to work out plans, that I don't want you guys to jump to any conclusions about the reality that we have today and what's currently going on. Washington County hasn't had the chance to demonstrate what we're capable of fully in the areas of criminal justice, and that's because our hands have been tied by the state by false promises and for a long time about what they're going to do and what they're going to do to improve our situation. So for the first time in many, many years, we as a county can hold our heads up and daydream about what we want our facilities to look like from a jail standpoint and daydream about what we want to invest into our people with local solutions. I applaud Sheriff Cantrell and his pursuit in that. It's going to happen. It's going to be great for us. I really want people to jump in and be a part of this. We're going to continue to lead in this area as a county in criminal justice. We have the right leadership, we have the right moment, and we have the right motivation to make this a lot better for our citizens, and I'm very, very optimistic and hopeful about it. Planning ordinance update. We have received only a few comments and questions. If you guys as JPs are continuing to field those, please let us know, and we can help you supplement and answer those questions. Haven't had a lot of feedback yet from our office, and so we're looking forward to having that continue that process to lay out and continue to put together those stipulations. Well, we're working on formalizing the ordinance along with the map we introduced to you guys, and we'll be submitting that to the County Services Committee meeting on June the 3rd for you guys to continue your consideration and your work. With that, I think I neglected to say that the disposal report is in your packet. And with that, we're going to move on to new item number 7A, which is the D-Day resolution. Council, will you read that resolution in its entirety?
Be it resolved by the Quorum Court of the County of Washington, State of Arkansas, a resolution to be entitled, a resolution acknowledging the 80th anniversary of D-Day on June 6, 2024. Whereas the largest invasion force in history was assembled and deployed on June 6, 1944 during World War II, and whereas the United States helped lead that effort as part of an international coalition involving Great Britain, Canada, and representatives from the military of other allied countries. And whereas the operation involved the U.S. Army, the U.S. Navy, the Army Air Force, and the U.S. Coast Guard, and thousands of Americans working in a supporting role both at home and abroad. And whereas the success of the operation was considered by many as the turning point of the war in Europe, as it began liberating France and other nations from the tyranny of Adolf Hitler. And whereas it is the intention of the Washington County Quorum Court to help county citizens to remember our history and to honor our veterans and the generation that fought and won World War II, including Americans of all backgrounds who worked and sacrificed and prayed to bring about the desired results. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Quorum Court of Washington County, Arkansas, Article 1, that appropriate personal and public commemorations be encouraged on Thursday, June 6, 2024. Article 2, that renewed efforts be made to help younger generations in Washington County to learn about, understand, appreciate, and remember the impact of what happened on June 6, 1944.
Justice Wilson?
I appreciate the opportunity for us to consider this resolution. When I introduced it in the committee last month, I made a couple of brief comments about it. I wanted to just add to those comments, nothing very extensive, but as I reviewed this and learned more about it in preparation for this evening, I wanted to mention someone that a lot of sports fans are aware of. Coach Marv Levy was a coach of the Buffalo Bills in football for many years, but not everyone realizes he was a World War II veteran. And although he coached at the top of his profession with great success, evidently he never got away from the impact of what that war had on his life and on the life of our country. One time a reporter was questioning him before a game, and you know how sometimes they ask coaches certain things, and they said, "Coach, isn't this for your team a must-win situation?" And he said, "No, it's not." And then he said, "World War II was a must-win situation." And that comment kind of summed up his outlook, because he had a perspective that a lot of us may not always have. He realized that there were things that were bigger even than what he was currently doing. He was not only at the top of his profession in sports, but he evidently took a great interest in academics at all levels, and even wrote poetry, which I was surprised to learn. One of his poems was about a dear friend who died on D-Day in 1944. And I won't read that poem to you except the last two lines. He was writing about an old friend he had known all his life named Bobby, and of course he didn't survive that day, but he wrote in his poem, "Many decades have passed and Bobby is still there, along with 10,000 buddies in the cemetery they share." And that's how his poem concluded. And I think that's appropriate for us to remember, because that's just one story from this historic date. It's worthy of remembering. I also have a quotation from a veteran, an Air Force veteran who was there at that time. And in the 90s, about the time of the 50th anniversary of that day, Colonel Barney Oldfield is his name, and he spoke about it. He was there to commemorate the event in France. And he also put things in perspective, because he said, "Everybody who complains about going to work at 8 o'clock in the morning somewhere should come here and look down this stretch of beach and consider what was asked of that generation to do on June 6, 1944. I think that's appropriate for all Americans to think about on a day like that, especially our younger generations who may not be aware of all of that. Also, I wanted to share with you that I'd been in touch with some of the veteran organizations in our area, the Northwest Arkansas Vets. They were glad to see that we were having this resolution and entertaining the idea of that. But they did say, as far as they knew, there was no ceremony or commemoration in Arkansas that's scheduled concerning this event. Now, if that's true, it's all the more reason for us to pass this resolution to call attention to that day and to that anniversary. So having said that, I move that we pass this resolution.
I have a motion to pass by Justice Wilson and a collective second by the remainder. Is that okay, or does anybody want to be left out of that? Okay. Any further comments on this resolution? Any public comments on this resolution? Mr. Allen, will you please call a roll to pass this resolution?
Justice Wilson. Yes. Yay. Justice Simons. Yes. Yay. Justice Bowerman. Yay. Yay. Justice Lyons. Yes, yay. Justice Ecke. Yay. Yay. Justice Dean. Yes, sir. Yay. Justice Koger. Yes. Yay. Justice Dennis. Yay. Justice Rio Stafford. Yay. Justice Lemming. Yes. Yay. Justice Ricker. Yes, sir. Yay. Justice Pond. Yay. Justice Taylor? Yay.
That item passes. Next up is item number 8, and that's our consent agenda. Counselor, will you read those items by title only?
Item 1 is an ordinance amending various budgets for 2024 and other purposes. Item 2 is an ordinance amending the Circuit Court Automation Fund budget for 2024. Item 3 is an ordinance recognizing and appropriating additional revenue in the amount of $80,529.08 in the Drug Court Grant Fund for 2024. Item 4 is an ordinance recognizing revenue in the amount of $393,294 in the High Intensity Drug Trafficking Areas Grant Fund and appropriating $393,294 from the HIDA Grant Fund to the HIDA 2024 G24 GC 0004A budget for 2024. Item 5 is an ordinance recognizing additional revenue in the amount of $171,507.94 and appropriating $171,507.94 from the unappropriated reserves in the general fund and the jail fund to various line items in the sheriff, jail, and jail maintenance budgets for 2024. Item 6 is an ordinance de-appropriating surplus amounts from full-time salaries for various departments and restoring to unappropriated reserves as required by the 2024 budget controls for the first quarter of 2024.
Justice Lyons?
Thank you, Judge. I make a motion, we pass the consent agenda.
I have a motion to pass the consent agenda by Justice Lyons, second by Justice Dean. Is there any comments or discussion on the agenda, or I'm sorry, on the consent agenda? Justice Dennis?
Thank you, Judge. I just wanted the public to know that the long form of this is in the previous committee meetings, so if you want to go back and listen to it, you can certainly hear it spoken detail.
I apologize, Justice Dennis. You asked me to do
That's
that
all
in the
right.
last meeting. The
Thank you.
just for the public in the gallery here and watching, the consent agenda is reserved for items that we normally take up that are, I would say, recurring orders of business. They're usually non-controversial, and so we pass them as a package. Any JP can pull any item off of that agenda if they would like more discussion or debate at any time based upon their privileges. And so I apologize about already forgetting that, and I'll try to put my explanation on my agenda so I can in my notes.
That's good. That's good, and I'd want the public to understand. I'm all for the agenda items. It's just a matter. I want you to have an explanation. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Any public comments on the consent agenda? Seeing none, we're going to take up the items. I have a motion to pass the consent agenda by Justice Lyons, a second by Justice Dean. Mr. Allen, will you please call the roll?
Justice Wilson? Yes. Yay. Justice Simons? Yes, yay. Justice Bowerman? Yay. Yay. Justice Lyons? Yes, sir. Yay. Justice Ecke? Yes. Yay. Justice Dean?
Yes, sir.
Yay. Justice Koger? Yes. Yay. Justice Dennis? Yay. Yay. Justice Rios Stafford? Yes. Yay. Justice Lemming? Yes. Yay. Justice Ricker? Yes. Yay. Justice Pond? Yes. Yay. Justice Taylor? Yes. Yay.
The consent agenda passes. With that, we're going to move on to item number 9. Counselor, will you read that by title only?
An ordinance amending Section 9 of the introduction section of Ordinance 2018-50, the Washington County Employee Handbook.
Justice Rios Stafford?
Thank you, Judge. I feel like when we were in committee that the county attorney's office did a good job of explaining the reasoning behind this, and our personnel office as well. Does this need to go through multiple readings? Do I need to? Okay. Yes. I move to suspend the rules and take this to the second reading.
I have a motion to suspend the rules and move to the second reading by Justice Rios Stafford, second by Justice Ricker. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed?
No.
Mr. Allen, will you please call a roll?
Justice Wilson? No. Justice Simons? No. Justice Bowerman? No. No. Justice Lyons? No, sir. No. Justice Ecke? No. No. Justice Dean? No. No. Justice Koger? Yes. Yes. Justice Dennis? No. Justice Rios Stafford? Yes. Justice Lemming? No. Justice Ricker? Yes. Justice Pond? Abstain. Justice Taylor? No.
That item will remain on the first reading. Sorry, I have my math wrong. Item number 10, Council, will you read that by title only?
An ordinance ratifying a conditional use permit recommended for approval by the Planning Board for the Top Kick Trail Wedding Venue Project.
Justice Ricker?
I'd like to make I'll let Sam explain it, then I'll make my motion.
Sam, you got a quick summary for us on this one, sir?
Absolutely.
Oh, I'm sorry. There you go.
Yes. Good evening, everyone. Top Cake Trail Wedding Venue, CUP, was approved on May 2nd by the Planning Board. 4 members were present, so it was an unanimous approval. So it's in the project is Greenland planning area. The applicant is requesting a CUP to remodel his existing 2,500 square foot house into a wedding and event venue. The place is going to accommodate up to 80 guests with parking lots. The property is about 5.18 acres. Only 1 acre is going to be used for this project. The business is going to be run by the family members, the husband, wife, and their kid. The hours of operation is going to be 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. 7 days a week, based on reservations. And the planning so far never received any opposition from anyone. So it was one of those easy projects.
Justice Ricker?
I'd like to make a motion to suspend the rules and move this second reading.
I have a motion to suspend the rules and move this to the second reading by Justice Ricker. I heard second by Justice Lemming. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? No. Council, will you read this for the second time?
An ordinance ratifying a conditional use permit recommended for approval by the Planning Board for the Top Kick Trail Wedding Venue Project.
Justice Ricker?
I'd like to make a motion to suspend the rules, move this third and final reading.
I have a motion to suspend the rules and move to the third and final reading by Justice Ricker. Second by Justice Simons. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? No. Council, will you read that for the third and final time?
An ordinance ratifying a conditional use permit recommended for approval by the Planning Board for the Top Kick Trail Wedding Venue Project.
Justice Ricker?
To approve.
I have a motion to approve item number 10 by Justice Ricker, second by Justice Dean.
Point of order.
Yes.
I've had my light on now for the last couple of times, and so has Judge.
Yes, and I've noticed it, and there's no debate until we run through the readings. So, are you ready now? Okay. Justice Koger?
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, are you ready now?
You're ready. You're recognized.
Okay, I'm recognized. Thank you. I hesitate when we move these forward on at one setting because we just heard from the people about the overcrest that we didn't have all the facts. And I was at this meeting when it was at the planning board, and no one objected. But that doesn't mean that everybody knows about it. So I just think we'd be better best practices if we not pass them on the first time. Give people a chance to hear about it, read about it in the paper, and come to us before we vote on it. That's my comment.
Thank you. Justice Dennis?
I just had a few questions. And of course, we're looking into zoning coming up. And so, we can practice right here if you want. On sound, because I'm aware of the fact that sound has been an issue recently at one of the ones that we did approve. Owners have corrected it, but at the same time, since we don't have a sound ordinance, who controls the sound on this? Because
we normally put a condition that to keep everything down, not noisy, no outdoor amplifying music. and like we always like stress on this part. So I don't know who enforce it, but most likely if there is like any issue, it will be enforced by the sheriff's office if any of the neighbors complain. If not, so we don't have ordinances against like noise. So we normally says, that's why most of our like project like closes about 10, which is a quiet time like every city.
Yeah.
So
Well, I bring it up because it's something that we need to think about going forward. But if there's not a sound ordinance in the county and someone just plays very, very loud music, and based on where, not necessarily, I'm not picking on this one, I'm just saying any of them, but this one sets up high over a valley, and that sound will carry a long way.
Yep.
And so it kind of makes me feel like we're responsible before it happens to keep it from happening by either having a sound ordinance or stating in there that you cannot play
It's always there.
exceptionally
Yeah.
loud music.
it's one of
Or
the conditions.
loud
Yeah.
anything.
If you have any extra conditions you want to add, like anything need to be added, like please do. We can always adjust the conditions of approval.
Well, I wouldn't know how to spell it out completely, but yes, I would want to add a sound. I'd want a sound on that, but I'd also have a couple others to ask about. On parking, what kind of parking is required?
Well, this project is being like reviewed by like the county engineer as well. So the parking is going to be next away from the septic. Of course, is going to be like where the barn is going to be is there right now, and we have everything in our like staff report. Like I don't have the entire like 100-page staff report, but it's going to be gravel. It's going to be close to the wedding venue. The whole project is going to be less than 1 acre. So it's all like contained within like a small area, and like it's actually like the top cake is like a private road, so and he's going to be maintaining it like as a.
Well, I'm no expert, but at the same time, the whole facility's on 1 acre?
Yes.
Unacceptable. I'll just tell you, that's unacceptable. I know what I'm talking about because I run one. 1 acre is too little for that many cars.
Well, it's he's not going to have like a big. It's like a repurposed like house. So it's not going to be like, he's not going to build anything. He's not building anything. He's just like.
Oh, I thought I heard you say it's 80 guests.
Up to 80 guests. It has like three-story house.
All right, that's 35 cars.
Yep. So, I mean, like it was reviewed, the project was reviewed, but if it needs to be minimized, we can always like ask this to be less than 80.
I guess that will be a thing that would have to be done in zoning, but at the same time, I'm just going to share with you, that's awfully small.
Mm-hmm.
For turnarounds, for parking, for the road, for the building, 1 acre is very small.
Yeah, he owns like 5.17 acres.
Sure.
So, yeah.
Okay, but how much is dedicated to the wedding venue?
1 acre.
So when he sells 1 acre, and the building and 1 acre, he's got so much yard and so little. It's a little amount of parking. So I just say that to you, and just up front, say it now instead of later. That's a little bit of an issue for the future when you sell it to someone else.
I don't think he's
because he might.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you don't know what's going to happen in the future.
Yep. It's like the whole area is surrounded by family members. Like it's like
I could die tomorrow, and mine would be sold by my kids, and someone else would have it. And if they just separate it off to 1 acre, it'll be real tight.
Yeah, and this also like project is located in like Greenland planning area, so it's gonna have to go through like the planning process of Greenland as well.
Yeah, and I'm not just picking on this one. I'm just saying we're setting precedents for the future.
Yep.
When we do this, I mean, if I come to you and I say I want to put in another wedding venue and I only want to put it on 3/4 of an acre, you're going to say, oh, I'm not so sure about that. Robert spoke against it one time. So, I'm just trying to play ahead on this game. And
yeah, if any of you like had the chance like to read like the new planning zoning ordinance, which is like posted online, we have like commercial 1 zones, commercial 2 zones, and like we have industrial, and each one of them has its own like acreage limitation. So that's already been addressed. And like if you have any feedback, please let us know. We can always like adjust it like while we're doing it now.
On the road situation, I understand it's a private road,
Yes, sir.
so that's up to the owner? to
Yeah, and
keep
he's
that-
already maintaining it and widening it, and he has another project, CUP, that's been approved 2-3 years ago, south of that. So he's already taking care of everything.
So if traffic's coming in and also going out,
Yep.
is there room?
Well, we've been there multiple times, we never had an issue with anything. The road is wide enough.
Wide
And he's
enough?
wide enough for my car to be there, and we had another car coming down. It was his kid, I guess. So it's he's gonna also work on paving it to make it more accessible for everyone. But that's gonna be I mean in the
That's costly.
in the works, yeah.
It's costly, I
Yeah.
understand. I understand that. I understand all of it. Okay, well, you answered my questions, and I think it's better to ask them up front than it is to
Absolutely. The
ask
applicant
them
is here. I
afterwards.
mean, the applicant is here. If you have more question for him, I believe he's more than happy.
Well, I'm certainly not against the applicants or against the wedding venue.
I got it.
I'm just asking the questions about what are we going to look at as we go forward. What we approve tonight should be good for tomorrow night as well. And so if you like a single road, a gravel parking lot, and no ordinance on sound, then vote yes.
Justice Lyon?
Thank you, Judge. Go back to the noise that J.P. Dennis brought up. We have added conditions, which I think you pointed out, Director, on others, like the RV lot down on Beaver Lake. We did add a condition of a noise level, right? We did it on the motorsport initially. We can do the same here. So I don't know what you believe is acceptable, but I pulled up a noise comparison chart, which is what I used when we did it on those others. If you look at a chainsaw, leaf blower, snowmobile, it's about 106 decibels. So if you feel like something that probably happens out in the country all the time, if we believe that's acceptable, then what we should do is make an amendment to the conditions for the noise level to be 106 decibels or less outside the building. Sorry? What's their hours?
It's 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. So that's what it says on his application, and the hours of operation, it's 10 a.m. to 10 p.m.
And you had my other two questions, so I'll leave that. Pass this over if you want to see
I'm
it.
taking notes here to add no outdoor amplified music. Yes, it has to be. I mean, it's there, but we can always add this as its own line as an amendment.
Okay.
Sorry about that. So yeah, let's make a motion to amend the conditions that during the operational hours, the noise level will be 106 decibels or less outside the building.
106?
Yes, sir.
160?
106.
106. Under 106.
Is that okay is that acceptable to the applicant, or do they have other thoughts?
Yeah, that would be more than 5.
Okay.
I have a motion to amend the ordinance to add a limitation of 106 decibels outside the building during operating hours by Justice Lyons. I believe I had second by Justice Dennis. Any further discussion on the amendment? We've got a lot of mics keyed. Is there anybody who wants to discuss the amendment? Let's take that up first. Justice Wilson, would you like to discuss the amendment?
Yes, I had a more general comment, but it applies to the amendment too. And the discussion I'm hearing right now, these are some common sense adjustments that can be made, and I need to be corrected if I'm wrong, but I thought at one point, at least, we were advised not to be adding conditions to CUPs from this court. And I tend to concur that that's generally not a good practice, because I don't see our role as doing Director Atta's job, what he's doing initially. I have a little bit of a problem here, or maybe a question. It's not that I have a problem, because there's some good ideas that come into discussion tonight and other nights, but I'm not certain that we're proceeding in the right way. That's just my comment.
Councilor Lester, would you like to comment on that?
Sure. My advice would be to tread lightly on adding conditions. For example, while this amendment seems entirely reasonable, we've set a decibel limit, something we've never done for any CUP ever before. Mm-hmm. And if there was ever what I would call a textbook definition of what's arbitrary and capricious, you've just created that. And so when this body talks about adding conditions, you probably need to establish some parameters at some point by ordinance on what those conditions are that can be addressed specifically by the quorum court before we just start jumping in on, here and there CUPs to add conditions, and then we're adding conditions that while it makes perfect sense to me what Justice or J.P. Lyons was saying, and the number, that decibel level makes perfect sense. Where's that? Where do we find that? Where would I go in an argument to a court in defending you to say, well, you can find that over here in this ordinance? It's not there. So it makes that much more difficult. The second thing is, in doing so, you would need to look at what is enforceable. How are we going to enforce a decibel level? Do any of you own I don't even know what the machine's called, to be real honest with you, that records it? Do we know if the sheriff's office owns one? They are the entity that is charged with enforcing your conditions or your ordinances. That's what they do, is the enforcement arm for the county. But if they don't have the capability to enforce something, then how do we do that? And that becomes another issue for us. So my advice is, and will continue to be, that I would recommend staying away from adding things like this for those reasons right there. Not because they may not be needed, but because until we have defined what those parameters are, we're really all over the board, and it gets really kind of wonky on us.
Justice Pond?
Originally, my question was to Director Atta. Is the health department going to review this as far as the septic system being able to handle?
It's already been reviewed. Designated representative already been there, and it's already done the septic inspection, and there was no nuisance and no problem. We never had anything back from the health department, so it was okay.
And that's under the notion that they have a capacity to take care of 80 people.
I guess it's was it rated for 250?
Yeah, it's approved for 200.
Yeah, 200.
It's approved for
like
200
that,
people. How many times a week?
I guess it's twice a week.
Twice
or twice or 3 times a week, I believe.
Okay, and so it has been approved. And I'm a little concerned with the idea that we have a conditional use permit situation here, but we're not, we're advised not to ask for considerable conditions. If it's a CUP, it's a CUP. Well, if we come up with some, and from what I understood, the developer is not having a problem with this decibel. So if he doesn't have, I don't understand why that decibel limit can't be one of the conditions that we might agree on in order to have enough votes to pass this conditional use permit.
I mean, if I add like one more thing, just like really quick. So Mr. Cartwright like owns the property, and like the adjacent property is either owned by his daughter or his son, or a family member. So I guess like he is also doing this because it's a family business, and he's being respectful like to his neighbors as well. I don't think he's gonna make noise because he lives there as well.
I don't believe it will either. I don't personally have any problem with this, and I don't have any problem with this condition, particularly when the developer doesn't have a problem with it either. Anyhow, thank you.
Thanks.
Justice Lemming?
Judge, can I ask Brian a question? Brian, there's no noise law ordinance on the books for Washington County Sheriff's Office to write a ticket on right now today, are they?
No, there's no general noise ordinance in Washington County that's ever been passed.
So really, there's nothing, if we put all this stuff on here we want to, they can't do nothing about it. Lawfully, they can't.
No, they could. I mean, a violation of a conditional use permit, there is a fine that is attached to that. There's a ticket that can be written for a violation of a conditional use permit. So even though there's no general noise ordinance in the county, any violation of a condition of a conditional use permit, technically, they could go out and cite the individual for that.
My neighbor, I don't have a problem at all with it, but he runs a dairy barn 24 hours a day, and it's about a half a mile from my house, and I can hear his big pumps run all night long. And I don't care, but I mean, if we start on noise ordinances and decibels and all this stuff, I mean, that's farming, and that's a good deal. I've got a neighbor that's in Oklahoma that I can throw a rock and hit his house, and his kids love to party, and they come out there, and they'll start about 9, about 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning, and they're still going. And I just laugh at them and wave and say, have fun. I mean, but, I mean, this is going to be a tough deal to put a noise ordinance across the county.
I will say the reason that there has not been, because there have been discussion of noise ordinances in the past. The concern has always been that given the the predominantly agricultural use in the county, when you start factoring in the sounds associated with tractors and trucks and farm equipment and in operations, like you said, a dairy farm, a chicken farm, that those levels can get pretty high.
Yeah,
and so when you do a general noise ordinance in the county, you start limiting people's ability to farm. And so that has always been what this court has gone back to in its discussion and denial of any attempt to put a general noise ordinance out in the county. That has been considered.
A lot of people
quite
in the
often.
county don't want you to bring a noise ordinance to Washington County. I hear that all the time. And another deal I was going to hit on, you was talking about the CUPs and putting more stipulations on them. We talked about one on this motor sports deal, and everybody was wanting to put more stipulations on it. But I think if we get above what the Arkansas State FAR codes are, you're actually saying we'll take the responsibility rather than what the state's already saying. So I think, you said tread lightly on this stuff. You really need to think about some of this stuff when you're adding stipulations to it, because if you're trying to get above the state law, that's not good for us, I don't think. What's your feelings?
Well, we can't, there is a limitation on what you can do as it relates to what the state law is. And that's law 101, right? And J.P. Pond had a comment, and you're right, as long as no one makes an issue of something, there is no issue. But when they do, then we have a problem. So my advice to you is going to be a general in nature as it applies to any and everything, which is I would caution you to start adding stipulations or conditions on these permits without having first set the parameters for that to have something to go back to and look at.
I wanted to comment. I accidentally uncued the mics when I fat fingered the wrong button. So if you wanted to speak, please cue your mic up again. Justice Dennis?
Thank you, Judge. I just want to withdraw my second and hope that the sponsor will withdraw his motion. This is not about the couple who's putting in a wedding venue. This is about zoning. This is about what we've got to think about in the future as we go forward. And the other thing to remember on something like this is after a person sells or after you rent a venue to someone else and they're running the show at the venue, you don't have control over what they do. They can do something and you not be there and not be able to stop it. And so I'm talking about loud music because it's came up recently. And so, you know, it's something that we're going to have to consider as we go forward. But I agree with you. You got to consider it for everybody, not just for one. And so I appreciate you discussing it, and I withdraw my second. I hope the sponsor will withdraw his first. Thank you.
Justice Taylor?
I guess first it's the original motion to amend withdrawn.
It is, unless it receives a second.
No comment.
For lack of a second, that motion will now die with Justice Dennis's withdrawal. So that brings us back to the original motion to pass the item, which was motioned by Justice Rickard, seconded by Justice Dean. Further discussion on that. Justice Simons?
Thank you, Chair. In consideration of our discussion and the concerns around this, procedurally, what's the best way we move forward? Do we deny the ratification of this, send it back to planning so they can put or not put any conditions and bring it back before this body? Or do we table it and have a new ordinance brought forth next month?
Well, if you table it, it's still here. So if it were, if it's your desire that this be reconsidered by the planning board, then I would move to refer it back to the planning board for some further consideration.
My concern with that is, does that then put a burden on the applicant to reapply additional fees, anything like that, or do they get to just pick it back up and make amendments?
They wouldn't have to. There would be no additional fees. Okay. The burden is going to be that they've got to wait the time to get on to the agenda. So, I mean, that other than the time, they don't have to reapply or anything. Okay. It would just go back for the next planning board meeting. I don't even know when that is, to be reconsidered. And again, all you're doing is suggesting to another entity that they consider some other things before sending it back to you, and then it's back to them.
Director Adder, remind us one more time, what was the planning board vote on this project?
It was like we had like four attendants like, and they all vote for it. So it was.
Okay. Sorry, Justice Simon, I jumped in there on you.
No, that's fine. So with that information, I'm trying to think back where we're at. We're back to the original motion. I don't think there's any action I need to take here, but the recommendation would probably be to kick this back to planning. So,
I mean, that would be a valid motion you can make if that's what you.
Okay.
Yep.
So, and this motion would supersede the one on the floor.
Yes.
Okay. I make a motion that we send this back to planning for reconsideration of the conditions that were discussed.
I have a motion to refer this back to the planning board by Justice Simons. A second by Justice Bowerman. Any discussion on this referral? Justice Lyons, or I'm sorry, Justice Secchi was next. My bad.
Thank you, Judge, but it has nothing to do with the motion that's on the floor. It was something that I wanted to say before the motion was made.
Okay.
So I'll just either you give me the privilege of making a comment, or I will wait until after the motion has been discussed and voted on. And I think that's more procedurally correct.
Okay. So you want to wait for the...
Yes. Thank you, sir.
Justice Ricker, I believe I cued your mic by accident. Are you ready? Okay.
I'll wait because it's not to do with this.
Okay. Justice Lyons?
Thank you, Judge. Couple things. I disagree. We have put noise on other conditions recently, but that's okay. I disagree with taking this back at this time. I think noise is one of the biggest things our constituents are worried about when we put businesses in different places. It's something I think we need to consider. We'll figure it out. I'll reach out. We'll figure out what the right approach is. But I don't agree at this point, given where we're at, where the applicant is at, and what's happened, that we should kick this back. I think we need to just proceed. And at this point, given where we're at, just vote on the motion and pass it and let it go.
Justice Dennis?
I agree. I don't want to take it back. I just want to let them, because when you take it back, you put those folks way behind economically. They got a lot of money, I'm sure, already invested. Any wedding venue does that goes into any business, any wedding venue that's already started, they've got money invested and they're missing out on the prime time. So I'm not against this wedding venue. I just wanted us to discuss about some of these things that we need to decide on, and zoning's going to take care of it. I guess that's a feather in your cap. I'm saying, you know, we need some zoning that covers it for everybody, not just one, because these folks are sitting back there thinking we're singling them out, and that's not my point. Good luck to you and move forward. And so I don't want to stop it. I want to let them continue. So I'll be voting no, with no offense.
Justice Ricker?
I just want to throw in my 2 cents worth. Before I was elected to this, I spent 40-some-odd years as a police officer. And none of the cities I ever worked for had a decibel meter. After the hour of 10 o'clock, there's generally, of course, precedent set. If there's a complaint on loud music, loud parties, loud whatever, it falls under disorderly conduct or disturbing the peace. I've written many a ticket for disturbing the peace. After an officer shows up, ask them to turn the music down. They don't do it. Write whoever's in charge of disturbing the peace ticket. Usually takes care of all the problems.
Thank you,
That's state statute. Has nothing to do with noise ordinances.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Justice Ecke?
Oh, okay. Thank you, Judge. Colleagues, there was a lovely lady who came in wanting to start her wedding venue, and it was so opposed by one person, and this court denied her dream to start her wedding venue. And it was a beautiful, not only a wedding venue, it was going to be a way to help the youth in the area to gain experience in job and leadership training. There was going to be Bible studies done on certain days for the youth. And this court voted it down. I was very disappointed that we did that. And now everybody's ready. And in all due respect, you're getting caught in the crossfire. I am so pro-business, and I support people, entrepreneurs who have a dream and want to do something with that dream and help improve the lives of other people and bring joy into this world. And yet this court denied a beautiful French-styled chateau way out because of difference of opinion. This is really hard. And you know what? It was unanimous by the planning board. Yeah. They all agreed that this was a great idea. But one lawyer lobbied against her and went after her with all the guns, and he said, I have deeper pockets than you do. So I don't know. I want to know a little bit more about this. I wish you great success, but court, this is too Jekyll and Hyde for me. Right. Make up your mind. We either are or not. It's not fair for us to be arbitrary and decide. You can, but you know what, Carolyn Ram? Maybe it's because you're a Pentecostal woman. No, you can't. And that was wrong. And she felt that resentment. Thank you, Judge.
Justice Rios Stapp?
Thank you, Judge. With all due respect, what the previous JP was talking about in that case, in this case, to me, are apples and oranges. I had no idea what the religious background of anybody was, and neither do I care. To me, the issue with that other case was the distance from a major highway. And this one is a lot closer to the interstate than that was, and the other one had opposition by neighbors. This one, to me, does not. And to me, those are the only things I'm looking at.
Justice Pond?
Meaning no disrespect to J.P. Stafford or J.P. Ecke, but I'd like to get some advice from the county attorney. Should we be discussing some business or some other development when we have a conditional use permit at hand that we need to discuss?
I'll comment on that as chair, because I think that's a ruling from the chair. I would prefer we stuck to this particular project, but I also try to respect you ladies and gentlemen and give you a lot of berth here to debate your issues. And so, yes, I would like to stick to this particular subject if we could, just to honor those who aren't in the room who might want to have some pushback on their project. Were you finished, Justice Rio Stafford? Okay. I think we're up to, I see no more comments. We're about to take up the motion to refer back to the planning board, which was made by Justice Simon, second by Justice Bowerman. Mr. Allen, will you please call a roll on this referral?
Justice Wilson? Yes. Yay. Justice Simons? Yay. Justice Bowerman? Yes. Yay. Justice Lyons? No, sir. No. Justice Ecke? No. No. Justice Dean? No, sir. No. Justice Coger? Yes. Yay. Justice Dennis? No. No. Justice Rio Stafford? No. No. Justice Lemming? No. No. Justice Ricker? No, sir. No. Justice Pond? No. No. Justice Taylor? No. No.
That motion fails. We're back to the original motion to pass item number 10, motioned by Justice Ricker, second by Justice Dean. Further discussion? Justice Lemming?
I just want to ask Brian a quick question. Brian, the CUP goes with the occupancy, right? Whoever it is. Say if, like Dennis was asking, Robert was saying something about if they sell it, if a new owner gets it, therefore they got to do the CUP process back in their name. Is that correct?
No, not necessarily.
So the business stays CUP, business stays...
Right. If they buy that with the conditional use that's been granted, it's not just in that person's name, that it can be transferred. It has to be the same use. So they don't get to buy a project that, let's say, in this example, is a wedding venue and say, well, it was commercial, so now I can open up a body shop. That's not how it works. The conditional use is for the use of the land, and so whoever has that land can use that land for the conditional use that was permitted. So it's not like zoning. If it was zoned commercial, you could technically go in and make some changes, but under a conditional use permit, the use of that land for that particular purpose is what is permitted.
So it stays, the
CUP runs with the land.
Runs with the land, so it don't run with the person?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Further discussion or questions on item number 10? Any public comments on item number 10? You sure can. I've been waiting on you. Get on up here. Come forward, because we have people listening online and we need you to be in the microphone, sir. And please state your name for the record, sir.
My name is Ronnie Cartwright. I live at 470 West Topkeek Trail. And what I've done is I got a CUP back in 2022, I believe it was, or 2020. And what it was is I was going to have weddings there. It's just a rock throw from up the hill. This has already went through one time with no neighbors' complaints. I take care of my neighbors. I've actually got 50 acres, and I'm kind of almost in the middle of it. But I'm just going to build the wedding venue on 1 acre. My thing is the reason I didn't do it where it was at is because it wasn't big enough. I've got a lot of people who would love to have a wedding at my place, but I just don't have the indoor facility that I cannot, people, if they need a dry place to have a wedding, I can't guarantee that. So I'm trying to do what people want. The place has got a great view. I'd love for all of y'all to come out and look at it. Gary, I think, has been there, Sam, and the road's a 60-foot utility easement road. It's a private road. I bought the property across the road from me 4 years ago. That's when this dream started. Until I owned that road on both sides, I could not do this. So my deal is I didn't want to do it down there at the cabin, the rock throw up the hill, and I think it's a great spot for it. Any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Cartwright.
Thank you.
I think we're good. Further public comments on item number 10? Seeing none, Mr. Allen, will you please call a roll? This is on the motion to pass item number 10 by Justice Ricker, second by Justice Dean.
Justice Wilson. Yay. Justice Simons. Yay. Justice Bowerman. Yay. Justice Lyons. Yay. Justice Ecke. Yay. Justice Dean. Yay. Justice Koger. Yay. Justice Dennis. Yay. Justice Rios Stafford. Yay. Justice Lemming. Yay. Justice Ricker. Yay. Justice Pond. Yay. Justice Taylor. Yay.
Item number 10 passes. With that, we're going to move to item number 11. Counselor, you read that by title only.
An ordinance ratifying a conditional use permit recommended for approval by the planning board for the Croskery Coffee Roaster Project. I hope I said that right.
Justice Taylor?
Judge, I'd make a motion at this time to amend to the correct spelling. I'm not sure which it is on this ordinance, appearing in line 10, line 14, and line 25. I'm not sure which way it should go, but there either should or shouldn't be an R there. There should be, so that would be
Item number 25 is a Scrivener error?
Correct.
Well, can we take, is that okay if we take it up in that?
Yes.
In that? So what, Justice Taylor, just to clarify for everybody, on line number 25, we have a misspelling of the business's name.
Correct.
And this is on first reading. Justice Lyons?
Motion to suspend the rules and move to a second reading.
I have a motion to suspend the rules and move to a second reading by Justice Lyons, second by Justice Pond. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Counsel, will you read that for a second time?
An ordinance ratifying a conditional use permit recommended for approval by the planning board for the Croskery Coffee Roaster Project.
Justice Lyons?
Make a motion, we suspend the rules, move it to a third and final reading.
I have a motion to suspend the rules and move to a third and final reading by Justice Lyons, second by Justice Dean. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Counsel, will you read that for a third and final time?
An ordinance ratifying a conditional use permit recommended for approval by the planning board for the Croskery Coffee Roaster Project.
Justice Lyons? I have a motion to pass item number 11 by Justice Lyons, second by Justice Dean. Any further discussion on item number 11? Justice Ricker?
Can I get Director Addis to give us a quick rundown on what this is?
Thank you so much. Same thing as previous project. This was approved by the planning board with all the members available on the 2nd of May. The applicant moved his business recently from the state of Washington to Washington County. Oh yeah. So he is basically wanted he has a business right now on MLK, basically simply, and it's a coffee business. And since the MLK is going to be expanded, so the highway department is going to basically encroach on his business. To keep the roastery business intact, clean, and the packaging and the continuation of the business not being disturbed, he wants to move just the roastery and the packaging to his place in Fayetteville planning area. So he's going to be utilizing the garage, not the garage, basically he has an outbuilding. He's going to be using it, and it's next to his house. The business is going to be run by the family members, all of them. It's I believe daughter and son-in-law, and the business is going to be between 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. 7 days a week, based on demand. And there might be customer visits just to take a look at the roasters, and how it works, if by appointment only. We never had any issue with any of the neighbors complaining about any of that. We never had any feedback. The fire marshal of the area did not comment on this, and the health department approved his septic, so we had no issue with that.
Further discussion or questions on item number 11? Any public comments on item number 11? Seeing none, we'll take up the question. I have a motion to pass item number 11 by Justice Lyons, second by Justice Dean. Mr. Allen, please call the roll.
Justice Wilson. Yes. Yay. Justice Simons. Yay. Justice Bowerman. Yay. Justice Lyons. Yay. Justice Ecke. Yay. Justice Dean. Yay. Justice Koger. Yay. Justice Dennis. Yay. Justice Rios Stafford. Yay. Justice Lemming. Yay. Justice Ricker. Yay. Justice Pond. Yay. Justice Taylor. Yay.
Item number 11 passes. For those following along at home, we had moved item number 12. Item number 13 is committee reports. Those are in your packet. And with that, we're going to be adjourned.